Welcome everyone to Whimsy Woven Stories. Here, we explore gripping tales of real-life twists. Join our storytelling community.
Lucas Bellamy is my name, and I was having the time of my life. That was how it appeared from the outside, at least. My wife Harper was the talk of the suburban San Francisco social scene, and I was the CEO of a digital business that was experiencing phenomenal success. Our opulent mansion has it all, pricey vehicles, and an abundance of cash beyond our comprehension. But behind closed doors, things were different. Harper always complained that I was too focused on work and didn't give her enough attention. "Lucas, we never go out anymore. It's like you're married to your job," she'd say with a pout. I tried to explain that building a company from the ground up required long hours and sacrifices. "Just a few more years, Harper, then we can spend more time together." She never seemed satisfied with my answer. It was an ordinary Wednesday afternoon when our neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, approached me as I was pulling into the driveway. "Lucas, dear, I hate to pry into your private affairs," she said in a hushed tone. "But I saw a strange car leaving your house earlier today. Didn't recognize the man at all." I chuckled. "You worry too much, Mrs. Henderson. It was probably just a contractor or something." She gave me a doubtful look, but didn't press further. "If you say so," I brushed it off, never imagining the storm that was brewing right under my nose. A few days later, I left the house in a rush, forgetting my wallet on the kitchen counter. When I returned home to retrieve it, I heard faint noises coming from upstairs. Assuming Harper was just watching TV, I started up the stairs. But as I reached the bedroom door, I heard hushed voices. Harper's unmistakable laugh intertwined with a deep masculine chuckle I didn't recognize. A knot formed in my stomach as I slowly turned the doorknob. The sight that greeted me was straight out of my worst nightmare. There was Harper, wrapped in the arms of another man, their bodies intertwined as they kissed passionately. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The man looked up, eyes wide with shock and fear. But Harper just stared at me, face flushed, unable to tear herself away from her lover's embrace. In a daze, I closed the bedroom door and quickly locked it from the outside with a key I kept on my key ring. Harper started pounding on the door. "Lucas, open this door right now," she yelled. But I ignored her, pulling out my phone with shaking hands. First, I called Harper's parents. You need to come over, right now." I managed to get out before my throat closed up. The man I remembered clearly, his name is Carter Hayes. He invited us to his home for a dinner party when we worked with him on a small project. Maybe this all started from there. Then, I dialed the number for the man's wife. A cheery female voice picked up. "Hi, you've reached Janice Hayes." My mind was racing as I waited for Harper's parents and Janice to arrive. When they did, I led them upstairs without a word and unlocked the door. Harper and her lover looked around in shock and horror as we took in the scene, their clothes scattered. The bedsheets tangled in askew. Mom, Dad," Harper breathed out. She pulled a sheet around herself, trying and failing to cover her shame. Carter's lips still swollen from their frenzied kisses, couldn't even make eye contact with his wife, Janice. "I want divorce, and please do not try to justify your actions." That's when I finally found my voice. "Get out, both of you," I said in a terrifyingly calm tone. "Get out of my house and don't ever come back." Harper opened her mouth, but no words came out. They both knew there was no excuse, no justification for what they had done. The perfect life I thought I had was a sham, and in that moment, it all came crashing down around me. After kicking Harper and her lover out of my house that fateful night, I felt numb, betrayed, angry. As the shock began to wear off, those feelings quickly turned into an overwhelming desire for revenge. It wasn't enough that I had exposed their affair to our families. Harper and her real estate developer boy, Toy Carter, had humiliated me. They'd lived their double lives and made a mockery of me. That game might be played by two, though. Even though their deceit had caught me off guard, I wasn't going to give up easily. I become a tech millionaire on my own. I was the one with the perfect takedown plan if there was one. Initially, I tried to learn as much as I could about unfaithful couples. Harper may have thought she was being discreet, but I knew how to follow the digital trail. Using my tech skills, I dug into her finances and made a sickening discovery. She had been embezzling funds from the charity she ran. That made me feel a little better about not giving her spousal access to my company accounts and assets. I'd always had a sense she was only with me for the money and lavish lifestyle. As for Carter, a little more digging revealed shady real estate dealings and under-the-table payoffs to locally elected officials to push through his development projects. With a few backdoor programs, I was able to get a hold of ironclad evidence. Once I had everything I needed, I hired an anonymous whistleblower to leak the information to the press. I wanted their sordid secrets plastered all over the news for the world to see. If they thought the affair was humiliating, they had no idea what was coming. Within days, it was like a bomb had gone off in Harper and Carter's lives. Reporters were camped outside our home, investors started pulling out of Carter's biggest projects, and the charity Harper was involved with began an internal investigation. "Lucas, please, you have to make this stop," Harper cried when she saw the media circus surrounding our home. "Think about what this is doing to your reputation, too." I just laughed coldly. "My reputation? You're the one who destroyed that when you slept with your boy toy behind my back." Her eyes went wide with shock when she realized I must have found out about her illegal dealings at the charity. There was no use denying it now. Meanwhile, Carter's high-rise apartment building development in downtown San Francisco was falling apart before it even broke ground. Sponsors and financial backers were jumping ship left and right as the allegations of bribery came to light. His own business partners held an emergency meeting to vote him out of the company, citing unethical practices and mishandling of funds. I made sure to provide the whistleblower with plenty of documentation to back up their claims. Within weeks, Carter's professional life was in ruins. Harper's charity was forced to remove her amid the embezzlement scandal. The high society circle she used to run and turn their backs. Even her own parents could barely look her in the eye as they faced criminal investigations and had their assets frozen. Reality finally began to sink in for the lying, cheating lovebirds. They had been well and truly destroyed just as I had planned, with their reputations in tatters and legal troubles looming. Harper and Carter quickly became person CDOs grata in San Francisco. No matter where they went, they were recognized, scorned, and attacked with insults from total strangers. "There go the shameless cheaters," someone would yell when they walked down the street. Reporters hungry for salacious gossip assaulted them with microphones anytime they left their homes. I could see the weight of public humiliation taking its toll. Harper, once so glamorous and put together, started looking more and more haggard and unkempt with each passing day. Carter's signature arrogant swagger had turned into a hunched, shameful gait. One evening I was catching up on the local news when I saw a segment that made me crack a satisfied smile. Harper and Carter were putting their multi-million-dollar properties up for sale and planned to leave San Francisco for good. The disgraced couple will be leaving the Bay Area to ambient unwanted attention and scrutiny, the reporter explained with an air of disdain. Good riddance, I thought. Let them slink away like the humiliated cowards they are. Eventually, I heard through the grapevine that they had settled in some middle-of-nowhere, small town, hoping to start over where no one knew their tainted reputations. They could flee, but they would never be able to take away the blot on their names or the joy I took in completely ruining them. It felt pretty damn nice to know that I had exacted my revenge. It had been a year since I had planned Harper and her lover Carter's destruction. At last, the scandal subsided and their shattered lives began to settle. I was just starting to feel some semblance of peace again when my phone rang one evening. "Lucas," her voice sent a shockwave through me, "it's Harper." Despite everything, part of me still cared for this woman. The emotional masochist in me immediately wanted to hear what she had to say. "What do you want, Harper?" I asked wearily, to talk in person one last time before the divorce is final. She sounded so small, so defeated, not at all like the arrogant social climber I remembered. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe downtown. When she arrived, I could hardly recognize the haggard, downtrodden woman in front of me. This was not the Harper I had married. Her eyes were puffy and reddened like she'd been crying for days. Dark circles engulfed them, and her expensive designer clothes looked wrinkled and ill-fitting. Without her wealth to cling to, she seemed so lost. "Thank you for meeting me," she began hesitantly. "I know I don't deserve anything from you after what I did, but I had to try one last time to beg for your forgiveness." I tensed up as she spoke. My mind flashing back to that night over a year ago when my life crumbled around me. The humiliation and rage came flooding back. "Lucas, I was selfish and cruel. I took your love and trust for granted, all because I was bored and wanted some excitement in my life." She went on, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You were right to expose me and make me face the consequences. I've lost everything, my status, my work, even my own parents' respect. But I deserved it all after how I betrayed you." Part of me felt a twinge of satisfaction seeing this formerly stuck-up socialite rendered so pathetic and remorseful. But another part of me, the part that still loved her despite the affair, felt a flicker of pity. "I'm not asking you to take me back or forgive me right away," Harper said, her voice shaking. "I need to know if you think you could ever find it in your heart to forgive me someday. Please, Lucas, you were the best thing that ever happened to me and I ruined it with my own selfishness." I looked at this broken woman, searching for any remnants of the Harper I fell in love with years ago. The intelligent, ambitious woman with so much potential before her social climbing consumed her. Finally, I let out a deep sigh. "Harper, I appreciate your apology. Really, I do. But what you did, it caused me more pain than you can ever understand. My trust and my heart were shattered into a million pieces that day." Her face fell as the realization dawned that she may never get the forgiveness she sought. "Too much has happened for me to just forget and move on. I found peace without you in my life," I continued, struggling to keep my voice even. "Our marriage is over, and as hard as it is to accept, I have to move forward from this as a single man." Harper squeezed her eyes shut as the weight of my words hit her, hot tears streaming down her face. But she didn't protest or beg further. She knew I had made up my mind after her ultimate betrayal. "I understand," she finally whispered. "Thank you for hearing me out, Lucas. I'll always regret losing you." With that, she grabbed her purse and left the cafe, her shoulders shaking with soft sobs. I watched her go, wondering if I had made the right decision to shut the door on that chapter of my life forever. A week later, I sat across from my lawyer at a long, polished table. And we were going over the final divorce paperwork, making sure all the separations of assets and bank accounts were properly recorded. "Everything looks in order, Mr. Bellamy," my lawyer said crisply, sliding the documents toward me. "All that's left is your signature on the final page, and your marriage will be officially dissolved." I stared at the stack of papers, overcome by a strange sense of melancholy. Despite Harper's cruelty and deception, signing these papers would be the final closing of our once happy storybook romance. I had loved this woman with every fiber of my being, only to have her stomp all over that love in pursuit of cheap thrills. When I didn't move to sign right away, my lawyer frowned in confusion. "Mr. Bellamy, is everything all right?" I snapped out of my daze and let out a rueful chuckle. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just haven't quite wrapped my head around the fact that this chapter is really over." "Well, in my experience, it's best to just rip off the Band-Aid," the lawyer said matter-of-factly. "Prolonging the inevitable only makes it harder in the long run." He made a fair point. I had to stop clinging to the what-ifs and shattered dreams of what could have been if Harper had just been faithful and grateful for what we had together. Taking a deep breath, I scrawled my signature on the dotted line, finalizing the end of my marriage. As I did, I felt the remaining broken shards of my heart finally begin to heal. This was closure, a new beginning. "Thank you," I told the lawyer sincerely. "I feel free," and I truly did. Free from the betrayal, the despair, the public humiliation that Harper's actions had inflicted upon me. It would take time, but I knew that in unleashing the fury of my revenge and then finally letting go, I could start to rebuild and find happiness again. With the divorce officially settled, I felt lighter than I had in over a year. My reputation and pride were battered but still intact. More importantly, the love I once had for my cheating wife had been surgically removed, allowing me to move forward without constantly being weighed down by anger or sadness. As I left the lawyer's office, the sun seemed to shine a little brighter that day. Harper and Carter were now just ghosts of my past, fading into insignificance as I focused on creating a new future for myself, one without lies, betrayal, or toxic relationships. I was finally free from the constraints of that nasty chapter of my life, and yet the road ahead remained uncertain. I was confident that I would have the strength to confront any challenge that came my way. I mean, I had already defeated my worst enemy. This concludes the tale we have told.
Thanks for listening. Share your opinion in comment section, and also do like and subscribe to the channel.